Thank you, Guy, and Mr. Zhovkva, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that today you're probably a happy man and you feel optimistic about the prospects for your country. So I want to ask you at this point, given what we saw on Saturday, is it possible that with the right weapons, Ukraine can finally put an end to this terrible war before the end of the year?
Really, what is happening throughout the last weekend, and definitely this is a positive tendencies we're having. I will be very modest in evaluating these things, and better to say it later when we will have the result. But this is due to the strength of the Ukrainian armed forces, due to the mastery of Ukrainian soldiers. But this is also due, right, to the heavy weaponry Ukraine started to receive for the last practically weeks or months. This is what we didn't have in the beginning of the war. This is what we didn't have, unfortunately, before the war. Right now we are starting to have it. But definitely, if you're asking me whether it is enough, definitely not, because the aim of the Ukrainian armed forces, the aim of Ukrainian president is to liberate all the territory Ukraine is now is not having the control of. And in order to do this utmost task for us, in order to get the victory, definitely we need more weaponry, we need more artillery. Artillery matters when starting those kind of campaigns. We need ammunition, necessary ammunition for the Western artillery and for the old Soviet artillery. So we need artillery shells of 122, 155 calibers. We need armored vehicles and tanks, because you see how important to have enough armored vehicles and tanks to carry the manpower. So definitely we need more and more weapons from our Western allies to get our victory as soon as possible.
And you say as soon as possible. Of course, Ukraine says hopefully this year can be put to an end to the war. But I wonder, there was a theory for a long time that weapons meant escalation, and that was a bad idea, and that would only anger Vladimir Putin, and that would only be a problem. Would you say that at this stage, everyone who said Ukraine cannot fight back, weapons means escalation, they've been proven wrong?
Absolutely, they were fully and totally mistaken. Yes, we heard some positions even before the war. Let's not provoke the Russian Federation. Let's tame the beast. Let's be very cautious. Look what happened. Russia still started its aggression against Ukraine, and the steel weapon started to go on. But imagine if we had it before, maybe Russia would have thought twice. So now they are totally wrong, and they see. I think they understand they are totally wrong. They understand the wrongness of their position when saying Ukrainian armed forces will not be able to master this weapon. No. They all see that Ukraine not only able to master this weapon, but use it sometimes even better than some armies of some NATO states. That was the evaluation of Pentagon when they said that Ukrainians lose having 12 out of 10 points for mastering this Western weaponry. So Ukrainians are smart, Ukrainians are courageous, Ukrainians are brave, and with the support of this weapon, we will definitely win this war.
And of course, if you go back to President Zelenskiy yesterday, there's also this idea that Ukrainians are fighting for their land. They're not going to let it go. That's the spirit of the nation. But I do want to ask you, too, about the situation in the nuclear plant, because it does seem that it is getting more dangerous by the day. I know that you have said you want to see an area where there's no fighting around it. Are we going to get anything looks like a no fight, no armed conflict around the site? And I wonder, given the information that you know, is there an actual risk, God forbid, but is there an actual risk of a nuclear incident perhaps happening there?
Look, we unfortunately had to shut down the last 6 nuclear units, and now the nuclear power plant is not working even to feed itself in the regime of Energy Island. Unfortunately, the danger is still it is. And these half measures, like no fire zone or whatever, are not full. The only measure which could and should be done is the complete withdrawal of Russian armed forces from the territory of the nuclear power plant. Complete. And this will be the best way to have the safe mode of the plant. You cannot give me an example of any nuclear power plant in the planet working under the control of foreign armed forces. So this is the only way to have this happening. The idea of Russia is to disconnect this nuclear power plant from the energy system of Ukraine. I have to remind you, Ukraine is now a member of ENTSO-E, joint European Union system. We wanted to give you a surplus amount of energy to you, European Union countries. So you should also be here with us asking Russians, so please don't ruin the single European energy balance. Don't make this danger before the winter time. And after all, right you are, to play with a nuclear power plant, to shell the nuclear power plant is absolutely nonsense, is absolutely stupid. And we have to unite our efforts to make this impossible. Once again, to withdraw completely all the armed forces of Russia from the territory of the plant.
And Mr. Zhovkva, I know you can't give me a lot of details about the operations that are happening on the ground, but your president was also very clear that you will continue the liberation of your territory, that's not going to stop. I know you're not going to tell me exactly where the army is going, but do you have a feeling that in the next few days we are going to potentially see more land being taken back by the Ukrainian armed forces?
We'll answer you like this: we're moving in the right direction and moving with quite good results. Unfortunately, you saw it yesterday in the evening. What was the reaction of Russia? They started to bomb the thermal power plant. No military objects in the city of Kharkiv around this thermal power plant to be shelled. But immediately in the evening, they hit the thermal power plant, disconnecting all the region of Kharkiv and several neighboring regions halfly. And you know what objects are connected to this thermal power plant? Households, kindergartens, and schools. So they started to test the ground before winter time, because imagine if the same will be happening during winter time. So answering your question, yes, we need as soon as possible to liberate as many possible territories of Ukraine in order to prevent the Russian armed forces to fight against civilians. They do not know how to fight against Ukraine military. They are fighting against civilians.
Mr. Zhovkva, it's Guy Johnson in London. How much further can your supply lines allow your forces to go?
Which supply do you mean?
The troops need supplying. They need resupplying. They need equipment. They need food. They need sustenance to keep the offensive moving. How stretched is the current supply line?
Well, now the supply lines are good. I'm not a military expert to answer about the prospects of supply, but obviously, I mean, you don't start anything serious that if you don't have the understanding of the supply lines. But sorry, I cannot give you more detail. I'm not an expert on this.
Okay. You may not be an expert on my next question as well, but I'd be curious to get some inside information here. How much tactical advice are you getting from NATO staff officers in the way that this operation is being conducted? There is a view in Russia that Russia is fighting NATO. You have NATO weapons. Do you have NATO advice as well on the way that this latest counteroffensive is being conducted?
You know, I saw some Russian narratives that the NATO armed forces enter this or that village, and they heard, you know, foreign speech from the soldiers. I mean, please, I beg your pardon not to comment this nonsense. My answer would be very simple. I think throughout this campaign, and definitely after our victory, it's Ukrainian armed forces and Ukrainian advisors who will be able to advise to NATO armies as well, to NATO countries as well, how to wage a modern warfare in the 21st century. Against definitely not of the second strongest army in the world, but definitely also not the weakest army in the world.
Ihor Zhovkva, we wish you well. Sir, thank you very much. Sorry, Maria?
Mr. Zhovkva, very briefly, though, do you have any updates on your EU candidacy? I know it's very important for you. Do you have any updates in terms of the progress on that?
Thank you, Maria. Very good question. We are now very good in doing these 7 recommendations that the European Commission has given to us. We're almost in the halfway. And as soon as we get them fulfilled and we have member, we will have the next stage, which is the accession negotiations. We really strive for this.
Thank you very much indeed.